Well, earlier today, I spoke to the Israeli government spokesperson Eylon Levy about that attack, as well as Israel's defence against South Africa's genocide case at The Hague. And I asked him first whether the two journalists killed on Sunday were being tracked and targeted, or whether it was an opportunist killing because they had put up a drone.
You're calling these people journalists, but these were two terror operatives who were operating a drone in a war zone. We know that one of the individuals was a member of Hamas's Gaza City Brigade, in fact, a deputy squad commander. The other one was an Islamic Jihad operative who worked for its electronic engineering corps. Now, we've not only said that, we've also released intelligence.
You have only said that.
No,
this is your word, and Al Jazeera deny that.
We have not only said that, we have also released a scan of an Islamic Jihad list, listing one of those journalists, a scan that we presented to your producer team just before going on this interview, and we hope that you'll be able to show this on screen. Look.
But there's great scepticism about those sorts of documents. People say that they're made up, fabricated, and they don't believe them.
In Gaza, not all people who present themselves as being journalists are indeed journalists. Many of them are Hamas and Islamic Jihad members. Now, of course, we are targeting Hamas and Islamic Jihad. We're going after the terrorists who perpetrated the October 7th massacre.
So were they targeting another one? That's the point.
We are targeting Hamas and Islamic Jihad members. And in this case, we had two individuals our intelligence know are operatives of Hamas and Islamic Jihad operating a drone in a war zone in a way that endangered our soldiers.
So are you saying that anyone who puts up a drone to cover the aftermath of a bomb attack... I mean, drone footage is a common thing in journalism around the world. Are you saying that if you put up a drone, then you are a terrorist target?
We are saying that any member of the Hamas Gaza City Brigade, we are saying any member of the Hamas Gaza City Brigade, as one of these so-called journalists was, operating a drone that puts our journalists in harm's way, will of course be a legitimate target. And by the way, Krishna, we know that Hamas has a deliberate strategy of passing off its operatives as civilian operators. We know, for example, from interrogations
you say you
of hospital
know, but
managers,
you don't offer evidence for this. This is just sort of rhetoric.
That's not true. We have, for example, evidence. No, we have, for example, evidence from hospitals. After the director of the Kamal Adwan Hospital confessed to being a brigadier general for Hamas, that many of the operatives inside the hospital who are being passed off as doctors, nurses, many are, and they have nothing to do with Hamas, but many people are indeed operatives of Hamas military and Islamic Jihad military facilities. That is part of Hamas's deliberate MO. It takes its civilians and it takes its militants and it passes them off as civilians because it knows that it's then going to generate very sympathetic media attention that's going to put pressure on Israel to stop its campaign to bring them to justice after the October 7 massacre.
So there is no regret for the fact that more than 70 journalists have been killed in this war so far?
Christian, every civilian casualty is a tragedy, but every civilian casualty. We have no apologies for targeting Hamas and Islamic Jihad operatives who are planning a new October 7 massacre. I've seen that list of 70 journalists.
There's a big difference between you saying somebody is sympathetic to Hamas and somebody is planning a massacre. You have no evidence that either of these people were involved in planning terrorist attacks.
I'm sorry, Krishnan, we are talking about card-carrying members of a terrorist militia.
What do you mean card-carrying? What do you mean card-carrying? That's a phrase you use a lot. Are you saying they were carrying cards saying, I'm a terrorist?
Well, it would be nice, if the terrorists identified themselves as such. But one of these journalists was a member of the Hamas Gaza City Brigade. He was a terrorist operative.
According to the IDF, which has a track record of saying all sorts of things that aren't true.
The other individual was a member of the Islamic Jihad's electronic engineering corps.
Again, according to the IDF, which often says things that turn out not to be true.
And you are quite welcome to put on screen the image that we have shared and to factually corroborate that and independently verify that, which is perfectly all right and is your job, indeed, to factually verify that. And we hope that international media will be more skeptical of claims that Hamas is making, that just because Hamas says someone is a journalist, or other people claim that, believing the lies of the terror organization that on October 7th burned, beheaded, raped people, and has spent every day since then lying about it.
OK, so I mean, it's clear that you are not really expressing any regret for the numbers of journalists who've been killed, because you're saying half of them aren't journalists.
We regret every civilian casualty. We think it is tragic that so many people have died because Hamas decided to launch this war. Krishna, we don't. But you're saying,
what number of the more than 70 are you saying were terrorists?
I have seen from perusing the list at least 20 who are listed as being Hamas-affiliated media, which is, of course, a preposterous statement.
What does that mean?
Well, this is Hamas-controlled media. It would be as preposterous as saying ISIS-controlled media. This is an internationally prescribed terrorist organization. You cannot be both a member of a terrorist organization and a journalist. I think you would expect that's a fair assessment.
Well, no, I'm just interested by what the definition of affiliated is. I mean, do you mean that any media organization that supports the Palestinian cause within Gaza is a terrorist-affiliated media organisation?
Anyone who is an operative of an internationally prescribed
operative is one of those clever words that sounds sinister. Let's just talk about people or journalists.
Krishnan, I do not know the specific circumstances in which these people were harmed. We think it is very important, however, for the media to exercise more scrutiny about the information that they are getting out of Gaza.
And you don't think the IDF should exercise more scrutiny in who it kills?
We are targeting Hamas and Islamic Jihad. And
but by your own admission, it's a minority of journalists who, by your definition, are affiliated to terrorist organisations.
Krishnan, I'm not familiar
so most of them were innocent.
I'm not familiar with the case of individual people. Now, of course, journalists get hurt in war zones. They get hurt in war zones because they operate in dangerous areas. Now, we are very serious and committed to exercising the principle of distinction between terrorists and between civilians. We do not target civilians. We have gone out of our way in this war to get civilians out of harm's way. That's why we postponed a ground invasion by 3 weeks to facilitate an evacuation of northern Gaza, secured the humanitarian corridor, designated a safe zone. We don't want to see civilians being hurt in this war that Hamas launched and is choosing to wage out of civilian areas in violation of international humanitarian law.